The unwanted gift. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the massive Zephyrian transport ship approach through the void of space. Her reflection in the reinforced glass showed a woman in her 40s with steel-gray eyes and short black hair, wearing the blue uniform of the Terran Space Command. Behind her, the bustling sounds of the station continued, but Sarah felt only the weight of expectation and the sting of what was to come. "Commander, the Zephyrian delegation has requested immediate audience," Lieutenant Nina Reeves announced, her voice carrying across the observation deck. The young officer's enthusiasm was barely contained, despite the circumstances they all knew too well. Sarah turned from the viewport, her expression carefully neutral. The Zephyrian Collective had been the galaxy's dominant power for over 3 centuries, controlling trade routes and dictating policy to dozens of smaller species. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago, and their rapid technological advancement had made some of the older races nervous. This meeting was supposed to be a gesture of goodwill, but Sarah suspected it was something else entirely. The main conference room of Luna Station buzzed with tension as the Zephyrian delegation entered. Ambassador Veltar led the group, his tall, slender frame moving with the fluid grace typical of his species. His skin had the characteristic blue-silver sheen of the Zephyrians, and his large black eyes seemed to take in everything at once. Behind him walked 2 other Zephyrians and a handful of representatives from allied species, all wearing expressions that ranged from curious to condescending. "Commander Chen," Ambassador Veltar spoke, his voice carrying the melodic tone that his translator converted into perfect English. "On behalf of the Zephyrian Collective and our allied nations, I present to you a token of our appreciation for humanity's recent membership in the Galactic Council." Sarah maintained her diplomatic smile, though something in the ambassador's tone made her uneasy. "We are honored by your generosity, Ambassador." Through the conference room's large windows, another ship became visible as it detached from the Zephyrian transport. Sarah's heart sank as she got her first good look at their gift. The vessel was enormous, easily 400 meters in length, but it looked like it had been through several wars and lost them all. The hull was a patchwork of different metals and materials, with obvious repair patches scattered across its surface. Several sections looked like they might fall off at any moment, and the engine pods at the rear were dark and lifeless. "Behold the Cassandra," Ambassador Veltar announced with what Sarah was beginning to recognize as barely concealed amusement. "A recently decommissioned mining vessel from our industrial fleet. We thought it would be appropriate for humanity's current level of technological development." The insult was clear, but Sarah kept her composure. Around the table, she could see her senior staff struggling to hide their reactions. Chief Engineer Marcus Webb, a burly man with graying hair and hands stained from decades of working with machinery, was studying the ship through the viewport with an expression Sarah couldn't quite read. "It's certainly impressive in size," Sarah replied carefully. "We appreciate the collective's generosity in providing us with such a substantial vessel." Ambassador Veltar's expression shifted slightly, as if he was disappointed that Sarah hadn't reacted more strongly to the obvious slight. "Of course, the vessel will require some work to bring it up to operational standards. The power systems are somewhat dated, and several key components have been removed for safety reasons during decommissioning." Lieutenant Reeves leaned forward, her technical curiosity overcoming diplomatic protocol. "What kind of power systems does it use, Ambassador?" "Oh, nothing too sophisticated," Veltar replied with a wave of his hand. "A basic fusion core design, perhaps 50 years old by our standards. Quite reliable, though limited in output. The mining laser arrays have been deactivated, of course, and the cargo processing systems will need complete overhaul." Sarah watched as Webb's eyes lit up at the mention of the ship's specifications. Her chief engineer had a reputation for seeing potential where others saw problems, and she could practically hear the gears turning in his head. "Ambassador," Sarah said, "would it be possible for my team to conduct a preliminary survey of the vessel, to better understand what we're working with?" "Naturally," Veltar replied smoothly. Though I should warn you, Commander, that bringing such a vessel back to operational status will be quite challenging for a species of your technological level. Perhaps it would be wise to use it primarily for training purposes or as a source of raw materials. The suggestion that humanity should scrap the gift for parts was the final insult, but Sarah simply nodded graciously. We'll certainly consider all options, Ambassador. Thank you again for this generous donation. After the diplomatic formalities concluded and the Zephyrian delegation departed, Sarah found herself alone with her senior staff in the conference room. The silence stretched for several moments as they all stared at the derelict vessel floating outside. "They're trying to humiliate us," Lieutenant Reeves said finally, her voice tight with anger. "They give us a piece of junk and expect us to be grateful for it." "Maybe," Webb said slowly, still studying the ship, "or maybe they just gave us exactly what we need." Sarah turned to her chief engineer. "Explain." Webb pulled out his tablet and began calling up technical specifications. "Look, I've been studying Zephyrian technology for years. They're incredibly advanced, but they're also incredibly specialized. Everything they build is designed to work perfectly within their existing systems, with their existing infrastructure." He highlighted several sections of the ship on his display. "But we don't have their infrastructure. We don't have their supply chains or their maintenance protocols. What we do have is the ability to improvise, to make things work with whatever we can get our hands on." Dr. Alex Morrison, the station's weapons researcher, leaned forward with interest. "You're thinking we can retrofit it?" "I'm thinking we can do better than retrofit it," Webb replied, his excitement growing. "I'm thinking we can turn this heap of scrap into something the galaxy has never seen before. Look at these specifications. That fusion core they're calling outdated. It's running at maybe 10% of its potential because they've over-engineered the control systems. Strip out all their fancy automation and replace it with our direct interface technology, and we could triple the power output." Sarah felt a spark of hope ignite in her chest. What about the rest of the ship? The mining lasers they mentioned. Those could be converted into point defense systems or even main weapons with some creative engineering. The cargo processing bays could be reconfigured into launch bays for fighters or even manufacturing centers. And this hull design, he gestured at the patchwork exterior. It's actually brilliant from a defensive standpoint. All those different materials and repair patches create a natural radar-absorbing pattern. Lieutenant Reeves was pulling up her own technical displays. The sensor arrays are completely stripped out, but the mounting points are still there. We could install our own systems, maybe even improve on the original design. The propulsion system looks intact, added Commander Torres, the station's navigation specialist. Those engine pods might look dead, but the basic hardware is there. We could rebuild them from the ground up. Sarah looked around the table at her team, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt growing in her own chest. How long would something like this take? Webb considered the question carefully. If we had full access to Luna Station's fabrication facilities and a dedicated crew, 6 months for basic operational status. Another 6 months to really make it into something special. And the Zephyrians. They'll be watching, Webb admitted, but they'll be watching for us to fail. They won't expect us to succeed, let alone exceed their expectations. Sarah stood and walked back to the viewport, looking at the derelict ship with new eyes. What had seemed like an insult an hour ago now looked like an opportunity. The Zephyrians had given them exactly what they claimed, a piece of outdated, barely functional technology. But they'd made a crucial mistake. They'd underestimated humanity's greatest strength, the ability to take something broken and make it work better than it ever had before. "All right," she said, turning back to her team. "We're going to take their gift and show them what humans can really do. I want detailed surveys of every system on that ship. I want to know what's salvageable, what needs to be replaced, and what we can improve. And I want it all done quietly. Let the Zephyrians think we're struggling with basic repairs." Webb grinned, the expression transforming his weathered face. "What are we going to call her, Commander?" Sarah looked back at the ship, imagining what it would look like when they were finished with it. No longer a derelict piece of scrap, but a testament to human ingenuity and determination. "The Starfire," she said finally, "because we're going to make it burn brighter than anything they've ever seen." As her team dispersed to begin the monumental task ahead, Sarah remained at the viewport. The Zephyrians had tried to put humanity in its place with their backhanded gift, but they'd forgotten something crucial about humans. When you tell them something can't be done, they'll move heaven and earth to prove you wrong. The Starfire would fly again, and when it did, the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way. Rise of the Starfire. 3 months later, the ship that emerged from Luna Station's construction bay bore little resemblance to the derelict hulk the Zephyrians had delivered. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Starfire, her hands resting on the smooth surface of the command console as she watched her crew run through final system checks. The bridge hummed with quiet efficiency, every surface gleaming with the subtle blue glow of human technology. "All stations report ready, Commander," Lieutenant Nina Reeves announced from her position at the tactical station. The young officer had grown considerably over the past months, her initial enthusiasm tempered by the reality of the enormous project they had undertaken. Sarah nodded, her eyes scanning the main view screen that showed the asteroid field surrounding Luna Station. "Take us out, Mr. Torres." 1/4 impulse. The Starfire moved away from the station with a grace that belied its massive size. From the outside, the ship still looked like a patchwork of salvaged materials, but now that appearance was entirely deliberate. Hidden beneath the carefully maintained exterior of scrap metal and mismatched plating lay the most advanced warship humanity had ever constructed. Chief Engineer Marcus Webb's voice crackled over the intercom from the engine room. "Commander, fusion core is running at optimal efficiency. We're showing power output at 300% of original specifications." Sarah smiled. Webb had been right about this Zephyrian over-engineering. By stripping out the automated control systems and replacing them with direct human interfaces, they had unlocked the true potential of the alien technology. The fusion core now burned with the controlled fury of a captive star, feeding power to systems the original designers had never imagined. "Weapons status?" Sarah asked. "All systems green," reported Dr. Alex Morrison from the weapons control station. "The mining laser arrays have been successfully converted to pulse cannons. Point defense grid is online, and the special package is ready for deployment." The special package was Webb's masterpiece, a series of human-designed railguns hidden within what appeared to be standard cargo loading equipment. While the galaxy had moved on to energy weapons and exotic particle beams, humanity had perfected the art of throwing metal very, very fast. The rail guns could accelerate projectiles to significant fractions of light speed, turning simple tungsten rods into ship-killing weapons that could punch through shields designed to stop energy attacks. "Commander," Reeves called out, her voice suddenly tense, "I'm detecting multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Configuration matches known pirate vessels." Sarah's expression hardened. The Crimson Tide pirates had been terrorizing this sector for months, attacking merchant vessels and disappearing before military forces could respond. Their timing was either very unlucky or very convenient. "How many ships?" 8 contacts, Commander. They're moving to intercept the merchant convoy at coordinates 127 Mark 84. Sarah could see the convoy on her tactical display. 3 civilian cargo ships with minimal defensive capabilities. The pirates would tear them apart in minutes. "Set intercept course. Maximum speed." The Starfire leaped forward, its enhanced engines pushing the massive vessel to velocities that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. In the engine room, Webb watched with satisfaction as the fusion core responded to the increased power demands without strain. "Commander, we're being hailed by the lead pirate vessel," Reeves reported. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing the scared face of Captain Rask, leader of the Crimson Tide. The alien's reptilian features were twisted in a sneer as he took in the appearance of the approaching ship. Well, Rask hissed, his translator rendering his words in accented English. What do we have here? Another piece of human junk trying to play hero. Sarah stepped forward, her voice calm and steady. Captain Rask, this is Commander Chen of the Terran vessel Starfire. You are ordered to break off your attack and withdraw from this system immediately. Rask's laughter was like the sound of grinding metal. Terran vessel. That's a Zephyrian mining barge, human. I've destroyed dozens of them over the years. Your pathetic species couldn't build a proper warship if your lives depended on it. This is your final warning, Captain. Withdraw now or face the consequences. The only consequence here will be your death, Rask snarled. All ships, attack formation. Let's show these monkeys what real warriors can do. The pirate fleet moved with practiced coordination, their sleek vessels darting around the Starfire like predators circling wounded prey. Energy beams lanced out from their weapons, striking the human ship's hull and causing small explosions where they hit. Shields holding at 97%, Morrison reported. Their weapons are barely scratching our armor. Sarah had expected this. The human engineers had discovered that the Zephyrian hull plating was actually far superior to anything humanity had previously developed. By adding additional layers and reinforcing the structure, they had created a defensive shell that could withstand tremendous punishment. Return fire. Show them what they're dealing with. The Starfire's converted mining lasers spoke with voices of thunder. Where the pirate weapons had caused minor damage, the human pulse cannons carved through enemy shields like they were made of tissue paper. The first pirate ship to taste the Starfire's fury simply ceased to exist, vaporized in a burst of superheated plasma. What in the void was that? Rask screamed over the communication channel. That was a mining laser, Sarah replied calmly. We've made some improvements. The remaining pirate ships scattered, trying to use their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the devastating human weapons. But Sarah's crew had trained for this exact scenario. Lieutenant Reeves coordinated the point defense grid with computer-like precision, while Morrison tracked multiple targets simultaneously. Captain Rask, Sarah called out as two more pirate ships exploded under the Starfire's guns. I'm giving you one last chance to surrender. Never. Rask snarled. All ships, ramming speed. We'll take this scow down with us. The remaining 5 pirate vessels turned toward the Starfire, their engines glowing white-hot as they pushed toward maximum acceleration. It was a desperate tactic, but one that might work if they could overwhelm the human ship's defenses. Time to unveil the special package, Sarah said quietly. Morrison's hands danced over his controls, bringing the hidden rail gun systems online. Targets locked. Firing. The rail guns fired in complete silence, launching their tungsten projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. To the pirates, it must have seemed like their ships simply exploded for no reason. The projectiles moved too fast to be seen, too fast to be tracked, too fast to be stopped. In the space of 3 seconds, the entire Crimson Tide fleet was reduced to expanding clouds of debris. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft hum of the Starfire systems. On the main screen, the merchant convoy ships hung motionless in space, their crews undoubtedly trying to process what they had just witnessed. Commander, Reeves said quietly, we're receiving multiple communication requests from the convoy ships, and from Luna Station, and from the Zephyrian observation post in this system. Sarah sank back into her command chair, suddenly aware of what they had just done. They had revealed their hand completely, showing the galaxy capabilities that no one had suspected humanity possessed. There would be consequences. Put the Zephyrian post through, she said finally. Ambassador Veltar's image appeared on the screen, his usual composure completely shattered. His large black eyes were wide with shock, and his melodic voice carried a tremor of disbelief. Commander Chen, what have you done? We've protected innocent lives, Ambassador, just as any responsible member of the galactic community should. That ship, those weapons, how is this possible? Our analysis indicated that the Cassandra was barely capable of achieving orbit, let alone engaging in combat. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. You gave us exactly what we needed, Ambassador. We just used it better than you expected. The communication channel remained open for several long moments, filled only with the sound of Veltar's rapid breathing. Finally, the ambassador spoke again, his voice carefully controlled. The collective will want a full report on your ship's capabilities, Commander. There will be questions about compliance with galactic weapons treaties. We'll be happy to provide any information required, Sarah replied. Though I should mention that every system on this ship was built using technology freely shared by collective member nations. We've simply applied human engineering principles to existing designs. Which was technically true, though it left out the crucial detail that human engineering principles had transformed outdated mining equipment into the most devastating weapons platform in the sector. As the Starfire set course for Luna Station, Sarah reflected on what they had accomplished. The Zephyrians had tried to put humanity in its place with their backhanded gift, expecting the humans to struggle with a piece of obsolete technology. Instead, they had awakened something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. The derelict mining ship was gone, replaced by a vessel that represented the best of human ingenuity and determination. The Starfire was more than just a warship, it was a statement. A declaration that humanity would not be underestimated, would not be pushed around, and would not accept the limitations others tried to impose upon them. Word of the battle would spread quickly through the galactic community. The pirates who had terrorized merchant shipping for months had been eliminated in minutes by a ship that everyone had dismissed as junk. The implications were staggering. Commander, Webb's voice came over the intercom, filled with satisfaction. The engines are running perfectly. We could probably push this bucket to twice light speed if we needed to. Sarah laughed, feeling the tension of the past months finally beginning to ease. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Chief. We've made our point. But as she looked at the star-filled void ahead of them, Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not to be trifled with. Now they would have to learn to live with the consequences of that knowledge. The Starfire burned through space like its namesake, no longer a piece of discarded scrap, but a beacon of human achievement. And somewhere behind them, Ambassador Veltar was undoubtedly composing a very different report than the one he had expected to write about humanity's technological limitations. The age of human dominance in the stars had begun.